If you are keeping up to date with the latest gear announcements from this year's Summer NAMM show, you might have noticed a few additions to Fender's fairly recent entrance to the pedal market. Today I'm going to be demonstrating one of these pedals for you. This is the MTG Le Tube Distortion. Designed in collaboration with Bruce Egnater, the MTG Le is a higher gain version of the original MTG from Fender, and I believe the name LA has something to do with the types of high gain tones that you would find in clubs on the Sunset Strip back in the 80s. Inside this pedal is a genuine vacuum tube, so the term tube distortion is not just implying that it will work well with tube amps. There's a real preamp tube inside the pedal, and you can actually feel the warmth from the tube if you leave it on for a couple of minutes and then touch the enclosure of the pedal. As you can see, the pedal has two foot switches, one for simply bypassing the pedal and the other is for engaging the boost section, which we'll get to later on, but for now let's just go through each of the controls and what they do. I don't think I have to explain what the level control does. I'll just say that there's plenty of output available with this pedal. The gain control provides what I would call a very reasonable amount of distortion for a high gain pedal. It's definitely enough to play some big meaty riffs and solos with, but it's not too much. You're not descending into that uncontrollable hissy mess of distortion when you have it turned all the way up. And I have to say that even though this is being marketed as a higher gain version of the original MTG, I actually really like the lower gain settings that you can get on this. If you set the gain about a quarter up, you get some really nice bluesy overdriven tones. You've got treble and bass controls allowing you to EQ the pedal to your taste, but in addition to that, you've got a tone control which kind of acts as a master EQ or brightness control. I'm seeing more and more distortion units coming out with this feature nowadays, or features similar to it at least. For example, my Sur Eclipse has your usual treble, middle, bass controls, but it also has a voice control, which is basically an overall brightness control. Same kind of idea with the tone control on the MTG Le. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, what's the point in having a tone control when there's already treble and bass controls? Well, the answer is that it allows you to tailor the pedal to any amp that you put it in front of. So let's say that you rock up to a gig and the backline amp is a blackface Fender combo. You know, something that's naturally bright sounding. Then you turn on your MTG LA Tube Distortion and you find that your distorted tone is way too bright, it's too harsh in the high end because the amp by itself is naturally bright sounding. Well, what you can do is simply turn down the tone control on the MTG LA until you hear the high-end frequencies respond in the way that you want them to. It's basically taming the high end of the pedal. And of course, if you're plugging into a darker sounding amp, you could turn that tone control up to add in more high-end sparkle. So the tone control is responsible for taming the high-end frequencies of the pedal, but what about the other side of the frequency spectrum? What about the low end? Well, we've got a bass control, which of course allows us to choose how much low end we want in our tone. But to the right of that, we have this tight control, and that is basically asking you, okay, so you've got your low end, you know how much low end you want in your tone, now how do you want that low end to respond to your playing? So when you have the tight control all the way down, you'll hear that the low end is kind of flubby and it lacks a bit of definition, but the more you turn it up, the more you reintroduce that definition and the more the sound just kind of tightens up. Okay, now let's talk about the boost section of the pedal, which has two controls, level and boost. The level control for the boost section has exactly the same amount of output as the main level control for the pedal, which might sound kind of strange to you at first, but trust me, it doesn't need any more than that. You can get really quite a significant boost in volume with the amount of output on tap here. And since they are the same level in output, that also means that you could if you wanted to make the boost quieter, but let's be real, we're guitar players, we don't turn down. And the boost control is really an additional gain stage, so you can add more gain on top of what you already have without the boost engaged. With it all the way down, it kind of sounds like a clean boost, so just your standard distorted tone of the pedal, but louder obviously. And then you can increase it, of course, to add more gain to taste, which you'll probably want to do if you're going for a solo. Just give yourself a bit of extra gain to play with. So let's have a listen to the boost section. Another cool feature on this, and I believe all Fender pedals, is you have a switch on the back that allows you to turn on lights for the controls here. Definitely useful for when you're in a gigging situation and you want to adjust your settings mid-gig. Having lights on the controls will make it a lot easier for sure. If you're thinking about getting the MTG LA, I think it's worth pointing out that you will need a power supply with a high power outlet on it, because as you can see on the back here, it says 260 milliamps, and that is definitely more than your average overdrive or distortion pedal. So when I first plugged this in, I was using my T-Rex Fuel Tank Junior, and the pedal sounded good, but there was some background hum and I couldn't figure out where it was coming from. So then I looked on the back of the pedal and noticed that it said 260 milliamps. So I was like, that makes sense, because the T-Rex power outlets are only around 100 milliamps, I think. So for this demo, I had it plugged into one of the high power outlets on my Voodoo Labs Pedal Power Plus 2. And that got rid of the background hum because there was adequate power for the pedal. So just make sure that you have a power supply that is capable of providing the power that this pedal requires. So there you have it, guys. That was the MTG LA Tube Distortion from Fender. Let me know what you thought of the tones in the comments section. If you want to know more about this pedal and the other pedals in Fender's range, click the link in the description box. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give it a like, click subscribe, and also click that little notifications bell to be notified anytime that I upload a new video. My name's Ross Campbell. Thank you so much for watching again, and I'll see you in the next one.